Hi, my name is Sahira, and welcome to my online belly dance studio. Today we're working on another fabulously snaky move called the Maya. It is also considered a figure eight that is vertical from up to down. We're going to start by breaking down the basic elements of the movement, and then we'll drill it. So the movement is comprised of two different isolations, the hip slide and the hip lift. So let's go ahead and review each of those briefly. So the hip slide in our belly dance posture, pelvis is tucked, knees are bent, chest is lifted, shoulders are rolled back and down. The hip slide is the slide side to side, parallel to the ground. So we know that in order to keep this parallel to the ground, we keep the knees soft, but we are sure not to bend and straighten them as we move, right? We're using those obliques to slide side to side. Weight is nicely distributed in the feet. So this is the first isolation that you will need to create your Maya. The second isolation we're going to be using is the oblique hip lift. So we're going to be keeping our heels on the floor today, which means that you have to really bend your knees to get this hip lift to happen. Two things are going on here. My knee is bending and straightening, so you can see when a knee straightens, the hip goes up naturally because the bones are connected, right? So this is very mechanical. I'm straightening my knee, the hip is going up. I can also engage my oblique, my internal oblique here, to help create an even stronger, more muscular up in that hip. So I'm using the knee, never locking it, bending and straightening, and squeezing the oblique to get a lift in the right hip. Let's try that on the left. Same idea here. Weight is pretty evenly distributed in the feet, and I'm squeezing my left oblique, straightening and bending that left knee to lift the hip up and into me. The more you bend your knees, the bigger this move will be. So go ahead and really bend those knees, being sure always to keep your knees behind the toes so that you can protect your knees. Now let's go ahead and switch side to side. Right, left, right, left. Keeping nice and lifted up out of the hips. What you don't want to do is sit down into the movement here. You're going to start to feel that in the sides of your hips. You want to keep nice and lifted and imagine pulling the hip up and in towards you as opposed to pushing the hip out away from you. Lift, lift, right and left using the knees. Knees are tracking out as much as possible over the middle of my feet, over that third toe. Lift, 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 lift. No movement in the upper body. Hips going up and down. So this is the oblique lift that we're going to need to create our Maya. So let's go ahead and put it all together now. So the Maya is a figure eight that happens parallel to the mirror, going from up to down. So if we take this and put it together nice and slow, starting in a very nice bent position, pelvis is tucked underneath you. Squeezing that right hip up and in towards you, we are going to then slide out to the side. So here's our hip slide, but we're doing it now at an angle. From here, you're going to switch your hip positions. If these are my hip bones and my right hip is higher than my left, I want to switch them. I'm going to do that two ways. I'm going to bend my right knee, which lowers my right hip, squeeze my left oblique and straighten that left knee to lift that left hip, being sure my pelvis is still firmly underneath me. Slide. Here's your hip slide. Left hip is higher than the right. Dropping that left knee to drop the left hip, bending or straightening that right knee and squeezing that right oblique to lift the right side, and sliding back over to the right. So your upper hip leads you over. Bend to lower, straighten and squeeze to lift, slide it back over to the left. Bend the left, straighten the right, squeeze that oblique, take it over to the right. You'll notice my heels are on the floor the whole time. So that makes this variation kind of tricky, but it's so snaky and it's so pretty. I really want you to try to keep your heels on the floor. If you're finding you're having a hard time, try bending your knees a little bit more. If you're not bending the knees, there's no way for your hip to get that up motion that it needs. So squeezing right hip, pushing it out, sliding it over, bending the right knee, squeezing the left side, sliding it over. Let's look at the moment of truth here, the trickiest part of the move. Take your hip over to the right side. The right hip is higher than the left. We're going to just work on that switch, right? You're switching the hips. Switching the hips. Hips stay to the right of you. You're switching by bending that right knee, straightening the left, squeezing your left oblique, right? Switch and switch. So my hip bones are switching, which is higher when I'm slid out to the right side. Yeah, same thing to the left. So slide it back over to the left now. Same thing here. Bend the left, straighten the right, squeeze the right oblique, and switch again. Being sure to keep lifted up out of the hip. Be careful not to push down into it here. Keep nice and lifted. Switching, switching, switching. Taking it back over to the right, and then back over to the left. Right and left. So this is the Maya, vertical figure 8 parallel to the mirror. Let's go ahead and drill that with music. Finding your belly dance posture, bending the knees, tucking the pelvis. Nice deep breath, roll the shoulders back and down, arms in second. Let's go ahead and start on the right. Here we go, lift the right, up, over, down. Really nice and slow to start, left. And back to the right. And left. Couple more really slow. All right, I'm gonna take it a little faster. Here we go, with the right. Right, for 2. Left, for 2, you got it, right. Keep the knees nice and gooey. Keep your weight a little bit back towards your heels to prevent your toes from going out over, your knees from going out over your toes. Right and left. Upper body is nice and steady. If you find your upper body wants to move, try bringing your arms here to create this sort of sensation of a steady frame in your upper body. Then keep it going. All right. Slow, slow, quick, slow with the hips. We're going to go slow and slow and quick, slow. Now on the left, and right, and left, right, left. One more time each side, right, and left. Really bend those knees. The more you bend the knees, the bigger the move is. Keep the chest nice and lifted. Arms are nice and stable. And that is your Maya. See you next time.